Welcome to the second episode of the Botten Klumm show. The first show we had Nizar Sharouch from Airbus, and it was just crazy to talk like amongst friends about digital topics. And we had enormous amount of feedback. Brian, you can please talk about that.
Oh, we had great feedback. We're learning all the time doing this, and the distributed nature of it, the true digital nature of it, continues to get me excited, and hopefully get you guys excited about it. One of the things that Nizar said that really struck me was that he talked about building a network of opinion, and I like to think that we're doing that here. We're bringing really diverse guests on, and we're kind of building a network of opinion about all things digital. Some of the other feedback we got was, we need some music, we need some opening sequence and closing sequence, and so that's coming up. We're working on that.
Of course, we need an opener and we need an closer, and we are already working on that. And so I'm going to show you this little beauty here. I just picked it up from my local dealer, and this enables us to do the weird stuff we're planning here. And so just tune in at the next time at the next show. I think we've got Tuesday, it's on Thursday, and maybe if I can leverage that, maybe it's on next Tuesday. So we'll have an open and closer. So, Brian, will we have a guest?
We will have a guest today. Yep, today we have got Nick Katsivelos. Nick has been working as a digital advisor, digital mentor, and we're really proud to have him this week. Really excited. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Great to be here. I really appreciate the invite and a chance to catch up with old friend Kai and make a new friend, Brian.
So it's just
that's great. It's so great to meet you.
So it's
just Nick. I was gonna say you're currently doing digital advisory work. You have a huge background in mentoring and mentorship. How important is that to you? Because today we're gonna talk about digital teams and how to make them really successful. So tell us a little bit about your experience as a digital advisor and a mentor.
Yeah, thanks. So it's always interesting when you engage with new folks and you're taking them on a journey. It takes a little while to understand, what their goals are and what their strengths are and where they know they need to, grow a little, and places that they haven't even considered, skills that they might need to take, or new opinions or new viewpoints they might need to forge. So I really love getting to meet people and suss that out, and then work with them over time. And what I found was, if I was just doing it straight through the opportunities provided at work with clients, I'd have a limited ability to really get in and help people. So I've made a really concerted effort to take my advisory capabilities and move it out into a lot of different places. So I've started teaching at New York University at the Integrated Digital Media Program, where I work with graduating seniors to get them ready for careers, which puts me in the flipped mindset of, what are the new people coming into the market looking for, and what's their motivation, and helping them adjust to what's going to happen as they leave academia. And I think, and then working with startups and some of the groups in New York also. So yeah, mentorship and so it's a practice. And to be a good mentor, you really need to practice and you need to talk to a lot of people. And then through that, I think I've been able to hone my skills pretty well to be able to work with folks and teams quickly come up to speed with where they're at, gauge them, and start guiding them. So yeah, I think that's critical. And establishing trust and having the mentee be in a mindset that's open for help is key.
Sounds fantastic, and so it triggers the catalyst mindset to be a mentor, because we are trusted advisors. We are somehow mentors. The same thing. I've got a coaching background, so How do you think is it different from traditional teaching or just saying what is right and what is wrong? How to deal? I'm always facing a situation where I say it's more like personal development for individuals to just adopt to the new thing, to dare something new. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more, and I think that's one of the challenges. When in technology, there's an addiction to scalability. Mm-hmm. And the idea, and hey, we're doing it here. We're scaling our presence. But that one-on-one connection to really drive change for an individual is tough. And it takes time. And so I think that you really have to have a rapport and some close contact with those folks to get them into that, as you're saying, catalyst mind, or we at Microsoft say, growth mindset.
So when you're working with individuals in the coaching context, you've got it's completely different language. Like I need to have when I'm working with individuals inside organizations. So this is not so emotional anymore. And sometimes it's getting emotional. And this is one-to-one. And so these are the magic moments of growth. This is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think also the difference between teaching or lecturing is that because culture and the fact that whoever you're working with has a starting point already, they have an existing reality. You need to do more. You can't tell them this is the right way. Yep. You have to meet them where they're at and adapt what you know to them. Trying to get an organization to completely adopt a whole new language, and it's very difficult. It takes a long time. So the more you can put it in their context and guide them, I believe really helps. I think another thing, so you don't just show up and here's the prescription, go follow these instructions, it'll get done. You're there more in a coaching sense, Good job. Let's do this. No, let's try something new. Hey, and it has to be collaborative.
Yeah. So this is the coach's dilemma. So I'm always over motivated. This is my thing. But a coach usually has to be fully. He doesn't have to take care for the outcome at the end. And this is a dilemma if we are coaching or mentoring in a organizational context here, because we have to care for the outcome. We'll be measured for the outcome, and so we are the coach. This is a moment where a coach gets dirty hands, because he's taken aside to go there, and so just adopt to something that really works. But I could talk about this for hours now. We're on it. Brian, hold me up. Today's topic is the anatomy of successful digital teams. And so all of us, we ran digital programs. We've seen so many. And so I think this is a pretty good setup to just talk about what works and what doesn't. Any ideas on that?
Oh, who do you want to kick that off?
I would love to give it to Brian.
Well, it's interesting. I like what we were just talking about is this balance between the individual and the organization. Because then we said, oh, okay, we got to care for the individual, how people like to work, their existing habits, what their experiences are. But then you add in the word collaboration. Right. And so that means, especially now, we were laughing about how distributed this show is. I'm in Omaha, Nick's in New York, Klumm's in Zurich. So now you've got collaboration, distributed network of people interacting and collaborating. How does it all balance out? I mean, the notion that we can all do things exactly the same way is also, I think, one of those fallacies, right? So what is the shape? What is the shape an organization needs to take now?
Yeah,
that's a big question. And I think as you get into larger organizations, global organizations, heavily matrixed, where there is no true center of power, as you're trying to create new opportunities or a new way of working, it cuts across so many different lines that we don't even necessarily think about. Getting those people on board to take risk, getting their managers to understand that, it's the right thing to do, and we're going to come up with new ways of measuring things. So how do you incentivize people to change? And I think the organizations that are doing it really well have found a way to be flexible and accommodate these changes. And the ones where it goes very slowly are the ones where every time a decision's needed, you have to go through this whole translation process, old versus new, and try to get buy-in. It's a communication problem, I think, that persists in a lot of places.
So how much do you think must this be powered or steered or managed or taught or something like, boom, become a digital organization, change everything and from top down? Or is it more a movement that arises and just raises from the inside to just kick everything away?
My experience has been it needs to be a combination. You've got to have the sort of grassroots team or members. They may be widely distributed across the organization and maybe not even connected, but the people who have the capability and the vision to actually drive and operate in a digital way. And then you need senior leadership to make it a mandate and open that up. And then I think the piece that's often missing is that sort of outlet, the side channel that you say, people who are operating on this digital change, here's a quick way for you to get to answers, approvals, funding, whatever you need that sidesteps the usual processes to help them accelerate and operate. The notion of operating like a startup within an organization is great to think about, but because the funding mechanisms and the expectations and the role of folks, many folks aren't skilled at running an accelerator program or something like that.
The fun thing is we're bypassing the whole topic and we're still making it. And so I had this skeleton about if we're talking about the anatomy of successful digital teams, at first stage is the classic prescribed software development process. It's about it's hopping in from a business request from whatever business department, business layer on top, and then it comes to a usually very powerful enterprise architecture department. They're doing something, they're creating some package, and it drops down to solution design. Solution design pops it back to enterprise architecture, it comes back, and then after 3 more months it goes to the just delivery unit in the end, what is IT, and this usually doesn't work. So this is where we're usually starting at. And the next step is usually something what I always call a Scrumified waterfall. Is that we're introducing Agile. We keep everything as it is, but we are just putting an Agile team, the delivery at the end, and then we are Agile. So you've seen this as well, Brian.
Yeah, I have seen it. And I've even seen people saying, well, things like, well, we don't have to plan because we're Agile. And luckily, the room I was in when somebody said that, everybody just kind of turned and almost killed that person with their eyes. It was like laser beams. Like, you still need to plan, right? You still need to do planning, but just saying that you're Agile somehow, and I think it comes back, Nick, to what you're saying about accountability and people who are actually driving the vision, and then having a strategy that backs up that vision. So,
So, Nick, you said vision, and we're often seeing that there is no vision. There is just the word we're going to be Agile somehow, but what this means, this what is not described in any way. There is no visionary on top that really drive this and is pulling everything. And if you got no vision, you don't have a strategy because you don't know where to go to, heading to.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. So there's a fellow named Bill Buxton who's now, I think he's a distinguished scientist or something at Microsoft, distinguished researcher. He used to be the chief scientist at Alias Wavefront, who made Maya, the 3D modeling software. And he has this notion of BXP, business, experience, and technology, being like a three-circle Venn diagram, and that value is created in the middle of those three.
Okay.
And I really take that approach. And I think it's important when you think about some of these initiatives that the technical architecture plus the business architecture, if you will, the business model and how it creates value, and the experience also are all need to have a unified or a interrelated architecture that's developed together. The bolt-on just does not seem to work ever, and it's only when for me the success is found when you've got the right people with vision and empowerment at the table at the beginning to really drive, and then let them grow their teams across those different spectrums appropriately in the way that a startup would. You have limited resources, you go as fast as you can, and by being able to take that approach, I think it lets you start small, but it lets you also not develop new silos. What's the point of breaking silos if you're just creating new ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are breaking. Usually we've got vertical silos. What we are doing with I'm hopping over these super complicated agile frameworks. I want to come to the Spotify approach with a tribe, with squads, and I've been there. I've done that. And if you say we need to have startup-like structures in our organizations, I love that. I've seen that, and I've seen this working, and I've seen this being successful at the end. This is. Do you know any companies that are really embracing such an approach of independent teams running a product manager? Each squad is run by a product manager with a small 2-pizza team, and is doing that. If this widespread, is it just? Where do you see that?
I do see it. I see it predominantly in product companies. So companies that are already building digital product. I mean, you also see it in the manufacturing world too. You've got people who are building component pieces and they do it in different factories and they have supply chain. So I do see that, but not so much. Certainly not in IT, traditional IT, and depending on the levels of outsourcing that goes on in a given company's IT, I think that diminishes it even more. So I think I've only seen that really happen in companies that are mature and dedicated to building digital product.
So
yeah, you see that a lot actually, is that factory approach, and it's something that a lot of large consultancies bring in because their motivation is to get as many bums on seats in an organization, right? So a factory approach. And I love, you said something, I haven't known you for very long, but you said something again that really stuck with me, which is people have this addiction to scalability. So it's like, they want to jump straight to the factory model, the giant, scalable model without taking time to actually build a practice that's going to be sustainable.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's a big culture miss too, because there are people who've got the sort of the scars and the experience and then some sort of success that they're bringing to the rest of the organization. I think it's very hard for everyone to just sort of show up, go to a bunch of meetings and a workshop and expect that their world is going to be changed. And do that en masse. You really do need to build something and build a movement and have people want to join.
So Klumm, you love meetings, don't you?
Yeah,
endless meetings.
Meetings. Everybody's so happy, and there is the idea. Everybody sits and everybody's super engaged, and everybody plans on how to plan and to make plans and all this stuff. And you can just postpone it to the next week to make further plans on how to replan and to do this. And it feels always what we had this webinar on why being on a digital journey is not enough because of the digital race already. And so we have to get on this race, otherwise we're just not part of this game anymore. This sounds brutal and sounds like doomsday speech, but this is just the simple truth. We have to get to this point. And I really lived this squad and tribe approach, and there is one thing. We can have a special episode on how this really works on detail. Maybe have some product manager here, and then we now already mentioned the product managers. And I often try to get product managers from the market, just using my huge LinkedIn network to just search for product managers. And there are no product managers on the market. Do you see this as well, Nick?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the hot job right now.
And so the organizations always say they've got this product manager somewhere in the business departments with a different salary, but they've got no clue about technology. And so this is we have to get into a power shift here to enable people here to get just through it, or enable these business people to just embrace technology to its full extent, to just do the whole job with this little team. So have you seen, where are you seeing product managers and this product manager approach to be successful? Brian? Or Nick?
Nope, Brian.
Let Nick answer that one, because I was going to mention that we talk about this a lot, and I think, the notion of you have to move from a project mindset into product mindset. And I think a lot of organizations are really struggling with what that really means. And one thing that occurred to me is that when you have a product mindset, and we talked a little bit about startup mentality as well, there's this idea of having pride in your product, taking care for all the aspects of your product, and then being a self-promoter. And this is one of the things that I think is really difficult for digital programs and technology initiatives in general, is people who are kind of driving that, or it's landed in their lap, they're not really that skilled at self-promotion. And I think that's what it really takes to get buy-in, and that coupled with a product mentality and product experience is something that's going to make you successful, or be the difference between being successful and not. Right,
Brian.
You're Nick, spot on, Brian.
Go on. So
go ahead,
Brian. This reminds me to the chapter of the Digital Journeyman book. I put it into the description of this YouTube video. Why I'm not on LinkedIn is not an option. And this is exactly the product manager's mindset. If I'm looking for a product manager and he has just his CV, or he's not on LinkedIn, or he's not on LinkedIn, and he has 12 followers or something like that, it's not actively giving something to the community. This attitude of giving, not only taking, this shift from egoism to altruism, to just giving the stuff away to get something in return. This notion of being fully open and the ability to talk to everyone. This is something that the product manager has to learn, and not every person is even capable to do this. I think it's 1 of 10 who's applying for that.
Makes you a great self-promoter. That's one of the things I love about you.
Thank you.
Well, the old joke of like, we're all in sales now is for real. And again, this is something that working with a couple of the accelerators that I do, the basic lean launchpad approach, it forces people to get out there and actually test their hypothesis in the real world, go out and talk to people, meet customers. And when you try to bring that approach in to folks who are like, well, I've been running large scale programs, for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, when was the last time you went out and did a bunch of interviews to prove a hypothesis before, going off to build something? And they'll say never. What are you talking about? And that's part of the coaching, I think, that's coming through. And it's also something that, again, I'm picking up to your point, Kai, about LinkedIn's not enough, and going to that altruism, when I'm talking to my students, I'm always like, you have to have a voice. And if the voice is in public, you'll never be heard. And it's very easy to get inwardly focused on the work you're doing, but taking time to step back and share somehow your experience is important. And so something like this, where I get to come on a show and chat with friends for a while, but do it in public, I think is great. And I'm encouraging that with other folks too, to get out there, because I think it really is important. And that promotion aspect within a large organization is critical and often overlooked.
Absolutely. So, where do you think you are a mentor, you are a coach, you're working on a university with students? I love that. I would love to do it the same way. So I need to meet you on the university, at the university in New York at some point when we're able to travel again.
Oh, that'd be fantastic,
so,
yeah.
And would love to talk to your students and talk about you, talk about us, talk about the speech. And Brian, maybe we're gonna meet there all together. Botten Klumm.
Well, you don't have to give me any excuses to go back to New York. I miss it, and I any chance for me to go to New York, after, when the time is right,
so
I will jump on it.
So if we are talking about a catalyst approach, if we are talking about a mentoring approach, where do you see where is it needed in organizations? Usually catalyst, this whole digitalization thing always pops down to enterprise architecture and the delivery units, what are IT, that are exchangeable somehow. They just have to do the stuff other persons are thinking about. And do you think this is then the mentors are usually placed there? Where should they be instead? Well,
I think right? I think you need the mentors there in the operational sense, because it is hard to get the flywheel going. But I think there's also mentorship that's needed from the C-suite and the board level too, to really, if it's true transformation, if you're really looking to open new lines of revenue or find new ways to monetize assets that are sitting behind your firewall, or change the way your company operates, everyone's got to be in. And really getting to a board that is going to understand the requirements for different ways to evaluate things financially, different ways to message that to the street if it's a public company. You need to have, in the same way the program needs to have good marketing, right? The company needs to be prepared to market the initiative at that higher level. And I think that a lot of times it's easy to get pushed down into the technology side of things and not get that access. And I think that's an opportunity to work with a CIO or CTO. And we see this at MIT's Scissor program all the time, and the other work that goes on at Sloan School. Making CIOs go from being, someone who's running a cost center and is about expense takeout to becoming a value creator and having a seat at the table of setting strategy for the company is important. And that's the kind of coaching. So having a CIO who wants to be coached up that way and who wants to talk to the board, I think is the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Brian?
No, I'm just giving a thumbs up. That's exactly what's required, I think. Yeah.
So I think we made somehow this line from the classic prescribed software development process to something independent, small teams doing the real stuff and being able to behave like a startup. And it definitely works. You can even deal with the funding as the funding of a startup. We've got 2 more minutes. So I want to ask you, what's your next big thing, Nick?
The thing that I'm really fascinated by right now, and that I'm starting to do some research on, is there's been a lot of advancement in what's being called knowledge mining. That's using cognitive services and AI, machine learning, to look at large pools of data and be able to really pull things together. What I think is missing, and I like the graph or the network as a way of representing knowledge and knowledge creation. I'm very interested in finding tools that'll help people capture their own knowledge network and be able to share them. I think that that's a communication possibility that's there, because if I put together a slide deck and it's linear and I'm leaving out 90% of the stuff I know about or I want you to know about, that's failing. I want to be able to go and give a concise presentation and then leave you behind with something where you can explore the little nooks and crannies and then add your own knowledge onto it and make it something that can grow.
Awesome. Yeah, we used to call that, I love that, we used to refer to that as expert systems. And when I did my master's degree in the UK, that was a big part of I did a degree in geographical information systems, and making sense of geographical or spatial data. That seemed to me pretty critical, to have people's expert knowledge, whether you're looking at, remote sensing imagery or whatever, just, and building a system exactly as you say, that would take people through their knowledge, kind of guide you around, rather than this whole kind of linear thing where you're leaving out 90%. That's a fantastic idea. And somehow along the way, I think expert systems kind of dropped off somewhere. Now there's a big resurgence with machine learning and AI. That's really cool.
Yep.
So I need to close the show now. So before I'm saying the closing words, I want to just make a deal with you, Nick, and with you, Brian. At the moment, it's possible to meet again, to fly again from Omaha to New York, or from Switzerland, from Zurich to New York. We should do that, meet for steaks and IPAs, and just continue this amazing discussion. Thank you so much, Nick, for being on this show.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Kai. Thank you so much. It's great seeing you again. And Brian, so great to meet you. And let's do it in person. That'll be great.
So,
likewise. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thank you so much.
You bet.
So, final words to you, the audience. Please subscribe to this channel. We've got this show on Tuesday and on Thursday at the same time. And the next guest will be Alan Knabe. He's a wholehearted API product manager, and he just started his new business for a developer portal. Then the next show will be Alan Glickenhaus from IBM, and then Amancio Buza doing magic with cards and API product management. So, bye to everyone. It was a pleasure. I've got goosebumps here. What a show. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you next time. And this show was powered by AXWAY. Bye-bye.